Hey everyone, this is Chris.
And Lorenzo.
And welcome to our Best of Saturday series. Now that we have hundreds of episodes, we get a lot of listeners asking us where to start.
So we'll be selecting some of our most popular episodes to share each Saturday from our years of podcasting. We hope you enjoy it.
No role plays, just real. Chris and Lorenzo share 4 decades of combined experience to help you become a more effective leader.
We've never really, as a workforce, spent a lot of time on making sure we're developing good leaders.
We'll be able to share stories, experience, mistakes, failures, successes.
This is Hacking Your Leadership.
Welcome to Hacking Your Leadership. I'm Chris.
And I'm Lorenzo.
We're doing this because it's something we have a passion around. And we hope you do too. This whole podcast, Hacking Your Leadership, started out of a little project that Lorenzo was doing a few months ago. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I had a chance to start the Life of Lozo podcast in March of this year. And one of the things that I got a lot of feedback on after a few episodes was just around talking about leadership. It's been a big part of my life. It's been something that I've really enjoyed doing. And as people asked me to talk about it, I thought it'd be a great idea to just ask my network and put it out there for any types of questions regarding leadership. And of course, I invited you onto the show to ask me the questions and allow me to answer them as real and as genuine as possible. And since we did those couple of episodes, the feedback's been great. A lot of people have asked us to go more in depth, have asked more questions. And so we decided to kind of spin off from the Life of Lozo podcast here into Hacking Your Leadership and really spend the time digging deeper, answering these questions, and doing it in a little bit of a different format that's shorter, a little bit more to the point. We can really kind of lock into certain themes and really engage with the audience from the Life of Lozo podcast, but also for others that are looking for any type of help in accelerating their own personal growth and maybe helping lead their teams at a different level. And I fully expect that we'll be able to share stories, experience, mistakes, failures, successes, all those things that happen when you have a career and you have a responsibility of leading people. So that's what I'm excited about. And I'm just really thankful that we have this opportunity. We can kind of get the show going.
I totally agree. And I have to say, the amount of participation that came in for those episodes, when you first said, hey, I think we should do this, I said, I mean, are you really going to get that many questions? And we ran out of time and had to go to a second episode and ran out of time there. And you continue to get questions from people all the time. It seems like something that people struggle with. I'm not sure if it's a generational thing, or if it's just that we've never really, as a workforce, spent a lot of time and a lot of focus on making sure we're developing good leaders. But there seems to be people from all ages, all generations, all walks of life that really worry about doing the right thing here.
Yeah, and I think that there's a great need for just being genuine and being honest and providing people with perspective that's real life experience perspective. There's a lot of tons of great leadership books out there, tons of great theories of leadership, and I've read many of them. You've read many of them before, but I think at the end of the day, what is done in theory and then what actually happens in the day-to-day of leading people, and specific to retail, that dynamic and that culture changes so quickly that the leadership style changes. You have to match what your people need. And I think that that's probably what sparked a lot of the questions and a lot of the interest is, we're all looking for ways to get better faster and doing the right thing and gaining perspective from others. And I think that's why, calling it Hacking Your Leadership is really just that, really just trying to help share examples and allow people to pull what they want to pull out of this and maybe apply it and move a little bit quicker in regards to their careers and helping their people, become more effective and more efficient.
Yep, I completely agree with that. I just think we should take a minute also to let people understand we're 3,000 miles apart. I'm based out of Los Angeles, and Lorenzo is based out of Jacksonville, Florida, and we're recording these bi-coastally and using the magic of technology to make it sound as good as possible. But there could be a hiccup every once in a while when it comes to the audio quality of syncing two people together over less than perfect internet connections.
Way to set the expectation.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. A little bit of the format we're going to go through on the show is answering some questions, having some discussion around the theme of the question. And then also something that we call the 1 minute hack, which is, giving a 1 minute summary on what we would suggest or what we would advise for some of these themes and some of these questions, on maybe a quick takeaway that you can apply quickly and kind of sum it all up that way. So that's kind of the show. So I guess we'll kick it right off and get into the first question, which actually comes from Jonathan, who was a listener to the Life of a Lozo podcast, and he wanted us to go deeper on a subject that we discussed when we recorded episode 7, which was the second Q&A, leadership Q&A episode. So we spoke about how to maintain your course with your own values-based leadership when dealing with a direct leader who is falling back on old behaviors or strategies. During the conversation, we mentioned that sometimes multi-unit managers aren't aware of how things run at the store level due to the length of time they may have been out of that environment. So Jonathan asks, how do I deal with the challenge of managing up when my direct leader is numb or naive to the needs of the employees at the store level?
Wow. That's a deep question. Let me ask you, just as a preface to that, are there any multi-unit managers who are not naive to the needs of the employees at the store level?
Well, I would say if they're not, then they're probably not doing the job they're actually paid to do, which is lead at a different level. Which
might be a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great question. I like that Jonathan chimed in with that. It shows that we needed to go deeper on that. And I know on that format, we tried to keep the questions to 5 or 6 minutes in terms of the answer. And he's looking for maybe a little bit more in depth. So, Jonathan, I would say a couple things. First, if a multi-unit leader is numb or naive, in your words, to the needs of employees at the store level, the first question you have to ask is, has the leader changed or forgotten what it was like to be at the store level, or has the store environment changed? And usually the answer to that can be, measured in how long that person's been out of the store. If they've been out of the store for 6 months or a year, it's more than likely they just have forgotten what it was like, and maybe believe that their role is more important than it is at the moment. If they've been out of the store for 8 years or 10 years, a lot of those positions they become lifetime positions for those people. There are some multi-unit managers who they excel well at that. They get the results they're looking for, and so they sit in those positions for a decade or two or more. And over that time, the store environment changes. It changes a lot. It changes several times in that time span. So yeah, it's more than likely your direct leader will be numb or naive to the needs of employees at the store level. So as a leader of people yourself, if the multi-unit manager is your direct leader, that means you're a general manager or a store manager, and you have direct reports of your own. I would say one of the most important roles that you take on as a leader is in that of deflecting the arrows of your multi-unit leader to the employees beneath you. So when you're in the store, if you want your employees to engage fully and perform and be productive employees, and equally important, love their job, then you take on the responsibility of absorbing what's coming from your multi-unit manager and making sure that you're disseminating what's important for your employees to hear when it comes to executing the values-based leadership that you're trying to embody as a leader. So don't let your leader's naivete impact your people. Make sure that you stay as a barrier between those two, so that your people know that they have your support. If they're hearing different stories or different direction from your multi-unit leader versus what's coming from you, then you have to have a discussion with your leader about who's the one running the store. Is your multi-unit leader trying to be a general manager of 10 stores, or are they being a multi-unit leader? So that's the first thing. The second thing we should talk about is what it means to be a multi-unit leader. So if you're a multi-unit leader, it's okay to not be in tune with the store environment like you would be if you worked in the store. I know a lot of multi-unit leaders who judge themselves for that. They feel like they have to spend so much time in each one of their stores as opposed to spending the time developing their general managers. They feel like they have a duty to the store employees to know what's going on in the stores so that they can meet the needs of the employees at the store level. When in actuality, they would be better served focusing on developing the general managers and allowing the general managers to meet the needs of the people at the store level. So they take on too much trying to meet this need. And really what they should be doing is holding their general managers accountable to meeting that need for them. If you have a group of general managers that isn't meeting that need, you need to get rid of them and replace them with people who do meet those needs so that you can focus on developing your people instead of trying to be a general manager for dozens or hundreds of people in multi-unit stores.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point. And, I think you hit on a lot of elements there that are very real and honest in what people deal with. I think in specific some businesses or some retailers, like there's an expectation that a DM or regional manager spends X amount of days in the stores, right? And like that's the intent to either sometimes validate behaviors or, some instances it's an SOP walk or it's a validation walk or it's following up on standards or in some instances talking to employees to make sure that they've memorized the ABC of how we talk to customers, whatever that looks like, right? There's that expectation for some multi-unit managers. But I think to your point, spending the time developing the leader in the business allows that leader to actually be an effective leader. And then it requires less of doing those types of things. If you're constantly going into a store or a building looking to check up on, did this checklist get done or did these things happen? Then like what's the priority of the leader in that building? Like it's an open book test, right? Like if you know that these are the expectations, if you know that this is the company direction or what's supposed to happen, then that responsibility falls on you as the general manager of that business to make sure those things are happening. So, I think the point around deflecting the arrows is absolutely critical. The thing that will drive a lot of employees and leaders crazy is kind of the whole adage of like flavor of the week, right? Is every other week there's something else or different that we have to focus on. If it's not this, then it's that. If it's not this, then it's that. And the reality is when you dig deep enough, it's all of it. It's everything. Like that's what you're responsible for when you sign on that dotted line to say I'm going to be the end-all be-all general manager of this business. It's all the things that I'm responsible for. And if it becomes like a feeling of a flavor of the week, then that just honestly means that you're prioritizing maybe too siloed, and you're thinking that if I can just get by with winning in this one category, then this other category can slip down, and then I get called for that the next week. So I think to Jonathan's question around, managing up with my direct leader, I've had that very same thing happen to me, and one of my examples that I hold to this day was it wasn't even a multi-unit leader, but it was actually a leader in the same store. And it was while I was an assistant manager in a building. And, what the priority was for my direct leader was very much based around performance and very much based around making sure that the store was in the middle or top of a comparison scorecard with other stores within our district. And that was the priority. And there wasn't much time spent really understanding the needs of the employees to get us there. It really just boiled down to making that happen. And so what I had to learn very quickly was discovering what it was that was most important to that leader, realizing there was an expectation to perform at a certain level, and then taking the time that I could get with my team members and identifying that training was a big opportunity for them. They had never really seen what great looked like. They had never really had somebody spend time role modeling the behaviors with them, with customers, and then role playing with them to make sure they were comfortable with it. And I took my time to be able to do that with the team and, to deflect the arrows. I took my lickings at the leadership meetings for about 2 or 3 weeks when the results weren't there yet, but they were moving in a positive direction. And then after about 4 or 5 weeks, the teams were performing and we were achieving the result that she was looking for. And I don't know that it mattered how it was done. It was just that it was done, and that's what she was asking for. So, I think that's a, to your point earlier on, there is an element of being naive to the business as you continue to go in your career advances up the ladder. I will be the first one to tell you, as a store leader, general manager of the business, I will raise my hand and say I'm probably the one who knows the least. And I'm okay with that. When it comes to the small nuances of things that are happening, I get a lot of information from my leaders, and I'm updated with the things that are relevant and pertinent to the business. And if there's a need for me to step in to support or help, I do that. But at the end of the day, since I had grown up in retail, I very much understand and realize that if I know too much, then that means I'm stepping around my leaders too often and getting into the work that I shouldn't be doing because there's parts of my job and things that only I can do, and that's where I should be focused on.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, and it actually made me think of something else too. You remember that whole thing when your DM would come into the store and you'd be doing new employee training, and they would get upset when they found out that the new employee training had gone 6 hours because he wanted to make sure that, even though you were budgeted 16 hours for new employee training, he wanted them out on the floor after the first 2, however long it took to watch the HR videos, and then you stick them out on the floor. And they're wondering why you're in the middle of a much lengthier training, and they want them out on the floor. And I think that what that brings up is based on your example, and then this as well. It says that a lot of leaders, they take 2 or 3 steps down the road before inviting you on the journey of what their thought process is. So the manager that comes into my store and says, I need you to get these 12 new employees out on the floor. That's not really what they're asking. They're not asking to get the 12 new employees out on the floor. What they're asking for is to make sure that every customer that walks through the door gets an employee to talk to. What they're asking for is a lifting of their close rate. What they're asking for is less customers walking out the door without having bought something. Either they couldn't find it, or they didn't know whether we had it in stock, or couldn't even find a person to talk to. That's really what they're asking for. They don't care about getting the 12 new employees out on the floor. They just think that is the quickest way to get to the end result they're looking for. So, Jonathan, or anybody else, if you're trying to manage up, it's on you to make sure you're asking your manager, your leader, what they're actually asking for. Ask them to define with you what they're actually asking for. Don't let their ask be in the tactical realm. Go back to the strategic with them. Their role is a strategic role, and you're executing at a tactical level. So have them speak to you strategically and have them tell you what specifically they're asking for, not what they think you need to hear in order to get something done.
Very cool. No, I completely agree, and I think that's the real solve to situations like this is accepting the reality of the fact that when you have a multi-unit leader, or even in some instances a leader in the building, that letting them do only the job they can do. And so being naive or to put it in Jonathan's way, like numb to the specific needs of the employee, in many instances is okay. But how you approach the work as that manager, and how you partner with the general manager or the person in charge of the building to trust them to know these things and know how to make the adjustments and know how to implement the expectations of the company in a way that's going to be impactful for their people. That really is the important part of this. If that's not happening, if there is no partnership, if there is no trust in that leader in the building, then regardless of how numb or naive they are, none of that really matters, because the real core problem here is the trust in the relationship between that multi-unit manager and the general manager of that business.
Yeah.
So with that, I would like to basically put you on the clock and ask you for the 1 minute hack.
The 1 minute hack.
I wish I could go back in time about 2 minutes because I think that that very last thing I said was succinctly talked about managing up. And in terms of the lack of communication and the lack of clarity between two people who both want the same thing. They just tend to be speaking different languages when they speak sometimes. So I will say today's 1 minute hack is going to be with your leader, regardless of the relationship, make sure the expectation is set over what the ask is. Don't let the ask reside in the tactical. Keep the ask in the strategic. Find out what the goal is, not how they think you should be executing it, but where do they want to get with you together, and then tell them to trust you to get that done on your own. Hold you accountable for those results because they're going to anyway, but you can get that done how it best fits your store. Be clear on what the actual ask is.
Cool. And that is today's show, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to Hacking Your Leadership with Chris and Lorenzo. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you next episode.
Peace.
Peace.